Hey guys, it's Maymay. The other day, I think it was Wednesday of last week, I showed you how to do this card, and I have been doing a lot of videos about it, and I know you're probably tired of it. However, I had some people who were struggling with this mechanism, and I don't want anyone to struggle. I want everyone to be able to make this card. So I'm taking a little time today to show you this mechanism again, but this time I'm going to draw in the score lines so you can see the lines. I know when I did it before, I did it on white cardstock, and when I was editing, I was like, those lines are really hard to see. In person, they're not, but on video they were, so I want to draw them in so you can see them. I did this the other night on Facebook, and it seemed to really help, so I thought I would try it for you guys too. Okay, so this piece of paper, this cardstock, is 8.5 by 10 3/4. So 8.5 by 10 3/4. So basically all I did was take an A2 size piece of cardstock and cut 1/4 of an inch off. That's it. Trim 1/4 of an inch away. Now, don't worry, all the measurements are on my blog. I'm going to link everything below for you if this is the first time seeing it. But if you've been struggling, I think this will help. So the first score mark we're going to make is at 2 1/4. Just like that. Our next score mark on the short side is 4 1/4. Our next one on the short side is 6 1/4. So super easy score lines here. But see how you can't see them? Now in real life, you don't need to pin these in. I can see these score marks just fine to work with them. But if you, when you're learning, I want you to be able to see. So what I'm going to do is take a pen and draw these lines in so you guys can see them on camera. I apologize for not doing that the first time. I really was not feeling well, and I was like, I had cold head, and I thought, I should have redone it. But this is basically it. So these are your 3 score lines on the short side. Now I'm going to turn it into my trimmer, into my scoreboard, just like that. And now we need to make 3 more score marks. And those marks are at 3 7/8, which is 1 little slot before 4, okay? At 5 3/8, which is 3 slots over from 5. And then at 6 7/8, which is 1 little slot before 7. So I know you can't see them. I'm going to draw them in so you can see them. Again, in real life, there's no need to draw them in because you'll just be looking at them and you can see them that way. Now, if you need to draw them in, go ahead. We'd rather the card be successful than worry about pencil marks or pen marks, right? Okay. Now, the only other mark I'm going to make for video purposes is on the back. This middle score line here, you need to be able to see on the front and the back. So I'm going to flip this over. Now, I can see it clearly right here, but I know you can't. So I'm just going to take my ruler and line that up and draw that pin in for you, or draw that in so you can see that line. Okay, so there it is. Now, this should be much easier. So here's what our score lines look like, since you couldn't see them in the last video. Now, here's the deal. We do not need this section, or this section, or this section, or this section. I think that'll help as well. So I'm going to cut those away. When I cut these away, here's what I want to point out to you before I start cutting. The part you're cutting now is this section of white that runs around the card. Okay? So you want to cut this line as straight as you can, as straight as you can, as straight as you can, and as straight as you can, because those lines are going to show. I'm just using my scissors and just cutting straight up that line. Now these pieces we're cutting away are perfect size for scraps, so don't throw these little pieces away, and you won't have writing on yours like I do, so you'll be able to use them. But people ask me all the time, what size scrap do you keep? This is a great scrap to keep because I can put a lot of stamped images on there. If you have scraps that are big enough for stamped images, or big enough for using with punches, or maybe they're big enough to use with your dies. Maybe you have a favorite die you use all the time and your scrap piece is big enough for that. Those are the ones I save. That's kind of my guide. Like if I know I can use it again, I'll save it. Also, if I'm running out of a color of cardstock and I'm using maybe the last little bit of some, I definitely save all those scraps. If for nothing else, to remind me to get those colors back into my stash. All right, cutting away, cutting away. One more, and this is that line we want to be real straight on. You can do this with your trimmer. If you're good with your trimmer, you can so do this with your trimmer. Not your rotary, but your one with the triangle blade would be able to do this just fine. So see how these are perfect for stamped sentiments? These will even hold, I think, let me see. Like one of my biggest sentiments is this new Merry Christmas one, and let me just see if it'll hold it. Yep, see, that'll even hold a big old sentiment. So don't get rid of those. Put them in your stash. All right. Now then, I'm going to trim away from these edges only because I want to take some bulk out. You honestly don't have to do this, but I like to because it makes it easier for me just to have some of that bulk gone, and it makes it easier to line up that panel that goes down the middle. So there is that, and I'm going to trim this one as well. You actually can do this while you're cutting these pieces away, but for video purposes and to make it easy, I didn't want to do that. But when you're cutting these away, instead of cutting straight right here, just go ahead and cut your angle in, and you won't have to come back and do this part. All right, now it's the fold. All your hard work is done. The marking and the trimming, that's the hard work. Now we're going to work on this center cross section and these arms. Now the reason I wanted to color in this line in the back is so you could see this score line all the way through the page, all right? Because this line and this line are what you're going to line up with each other. The biggest thing is you want to make sure you cross that center cross section. And here's a little tip. If you take your ruler and lay it there at an angle and go ahead and get it folded to that section, then you can move your ruler out of the way and just come down and line this line up with the one on the card mat on the front. Super easy. I promise it's easy. I just know it was hard to see, so I apologize for that. All right, so there is that. I'm going to crease, crease, crease. All right. Now then, I'm going to lay this out, and we're going to do the other arm just the same. So I'm just going to go to that section, lift up my card to get me started on that crisscross, all right? Bring this over, and using the score line on the back, I'm going to line it up with the score line in the center. And you can kind of press that into that crease in the middle. Crease it down, crease it down. So does that make it easier? Everybody, I did this on Facebook. I did a live version of this on our Facebook group. Speaking of, if you want to see that done, head over to Maymay Made It, and so did I. There's a link in the description. You can watch the live videos where I answered questions at the same time too. All right, so now I'm just going to squeeze these pieces together, making sure that my point in the center is nice and crisp, and then press this all down, okay? Then I'm going to score, 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 crease, 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 I should say. Just like this, and then come back here and do it again. And now you have your mechanism. I think that will make it easier to understand by having those little marks. In the end, this mark is just a guideline. These guys are just a guideline. These guys are just a guideline. But for me, this made this so easy. Now, I have one more idea for the mechanism, and I want to show it to you. So I'll be bringing you an extra video today, later this evening, that's got one more idea for how you can make this if this is just too much for you. And I understand this is a lot of engineering. So I've got one more idea. I'll bring that to you later today in another video, so keep a watch out for that one. But there you go. That's how you do it with directions. Now, if you want to actually see this card made, if maybe you just ended up here today for the first time, I'll link the video for the actual instructions with all of the information for you so you can see how it's done. Thanks so much for watching today, guys. I hope that this cleared up any questions you had, and if it didn't, be sure to leave them below because I'll make sure that I get them answered. I want you to be able to make this card. It's so easy and so fun once you master it. Thanks so much for watching today. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.